Welcome, guys, back to the CD podcast. Today, we got a special guest. We got your host here, and then we got our special guest here. His name is Phil Barnhill. He is the CFO of the Greenville Federal Credit Union.
Mm-hmm.
What's up?
What's up, guys?
For those of you that don't know, we are from Greenville, South Carolina.
Yeah.
So that's why we're here with him.
Yep.
You want to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, like I said, my name's Phil. In the finance world, CFO. I've been at the credit union for a little over 2 years now. So, still relatively new, but been great. I have interesting. I don't know if you guys want to hear my full background, but interesting little job bouncing around a little bit. So, I went to Clemson University, got an accounting degree there. Hung around one more year, need to get one more football season in. You guys love football, right? Yeah. But had to get one more year. So I got my master's in accounting there, and then I got my CPA license at the same time. So kind of got all that knocked out. Yeah. Moved to Charleston, did the audit world. So all the accounting nerd things. Yeah. It's great stuff. Yeah. And audited insurance companies, oddly enough, which is random, but captive insurance. Have you guys ever heard of captive insurance?
No,
it's a unique industry, a little niche.
What are they insured for?
So what it is kind of corporations set up their own insurance company, do self-insurance in a way. So they fund it, and then they get to, so if they have a good loss year where they don't have many losses, they get to reabsorb some of those profits.
Okay.
So it was interesting. Audited those for a handful of years, and then actually got hired by a client that I audited to run their captive. So I had about 8 or 9 insurance companies that I ran for a while, and did that for a few years, and then jumped to the banking world. So I went to a local bank here, Southern First. I was the assistant controller there for a little over 4 years, and learned a ton there. Just opened my. It was wild, the amount of stuff I learned. Publicly traded companies, so I was doing all the stock stuff, all the 10Qs, 10Ks, putting all those together. Great people, great bank. Then had an opportunity to go to the credit union. And getting to be a CFO was something I didn't think I'd be jumping on. But, man, it was a great opportunity. Cool. So I had to take it, and, man, it's been great.
Yeah. That's a lot. But when you started accounting, is that something that – because you went from accounting to banking. Mm-hmm. I know there's, like, obviously numbers relations there, right. But was that the initial plan that you had?
I didn't have a plan. So it was fun in high school. I love numbers, love math. So I was like, I'll try accounting. And my soccer coach was the accounting teacher at our high school. So I took that class, and it was interesting to me. And then I realized accounting's so flexible. You can do a bunch of different industries. So you mentioned, like I said, my background is I went for auditing, then I got into insurance, heavily regulated industry. Went to banking, another heavily regulated industry. So there's like the accounting degree. I always thought was I could kind of do whatever I wanted to do in a way. You know, there's opportunities out in all of those. So that's what really drove me to be in the accounting kind of world. So, but then no, it just kind of was just doors that opened, and just the opportunity there. So, never would have thought I'd be a banker, to be honest.
That's crazy.
Through high school, college, whatever. But it's kind of
because I know a guy that he's just kind of starting his accounting journey. He's doing all the auditing now, and I never really asked him what his plan is, but hey, maybe that route is something he could think of.
It could, and what I will say with the audit side, you get to meet I went to around probably 30, 40 companies, and I got to be face-to-face with CEOs, CFOs, and you get exposure that way of getting to meet people, get your network built, which is, I think, is just crucial with any kind of business you're in. Definitely. So really allowed me to kind of get those things going, and then just found a way to keep going.
And how long has it been? How long was that journey until you became a CFO?
So out of college, me feel old. Graduated 2010 with my master's, so 12-year career.
About 10 years then, because you've been CFO for 2?
Been CFO for 2, so yeah. So I guess 4 or 5 years in insurance, and then 4 more. And
that's pretty fast.
Yeah, that's not bad. Fast. To be chief executive, that's pretty fast.
I will be. I'll be honest.
That's
It's
cool.
weird. It's
That's
kind of
cool,
weird.
man.
I even now I go to things and people are kind of like, "Are you sure you're CFO? Like you just don't look old."
And you
I'm
look
like,
young,
I
yeah.
Yeah,
don't
exactly.
know, but
Chief financial
it's a
officer.
blessing, man. It really is. It's just one of those where opportunity, and I'll be honest. My boss knows this, so if he watches this, he'll know. But I'm like, I remember applying for the job, thinking like, I'm not getting the job. Like, I'm not qualified for that. But you got to.
You applied for CFO or a different one?
I applied for
Oh,
CFO.
dang.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
that's cool.
so I didn't know the credit union at all. Just applied. They were looking for somebody, and they'd been looking for a while. And then they were just like, "All right, you're our guy." So that was a pretty cool moment when I got to come home and be like, I just got offered a CFO job. That's crazy.
How long was the interview process?
That one wasn't too long. It was probably over a couple of weeks, probably 3 different meetings. And kind of review financials, bring my questions on how they are operating, all that. So pretty detailed, but overall, I think it was really more of a personality match that really fit well. So
Do they
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask. I mean, since it's like personality, do you think they, or I don't know if it's common when it comes to CFO, especially like finance and stuff. Do they look at your own finances and how you manage that?
I mean,
That's a good question.
They run my credit, so they make sure.
For an interview, they actually run your credit.
I don't know if it's the interview, but I know in onboarding we do it for every employee at the credit union because we got to make sure that we're dealing with money, so we got to make sure people.
You at least know.
And like not everybody's perfect credit score. That's
Right.
not where we're at, but it's like we want to make sure people understand and know. So that's important, but yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times, even with my employees now, I mean, they come and ask questions for personal, hey, how can I manage this better? And I mean, that's a great perk of my job. I get to have those conversations and help people and talk through some things. So
That's cool.
Yeah.
How do you phase from like having like an employee mindset to like a manager mindset?
It's a shift, and I'd say when I went from being assistant controller at the bank to CFO, that's a jump. That's kind of missing a couple levels in there. Where I had a team at the bank that I oversaw to an extent, but I wasn't ultimately responsible for them. To now I'm responsible for a lot of people, and it's a different mindset. It's tough. It is because I take it seriously. I mean, I view them as they're my employees, right? I want to take care of them. I want to make sure they're paid right, good spot, good career path, good development, all those things. So it's really, I mean, to answer your question, I'm a work in process on that.
I bet it's one of those things where you just kind of learn as you go.
You really do. And you just got to be humble. You got to think, hey, I don't have all the answers here. And you got to ask. I mean, I'm surrounded by guys and girls that have been in this for a long time, and just really cool to bounce ideas off, talk through. But ultimately, I landed in a great spot because the people are awesome. I mean, everybody work hard, play hard, all that fun stuff, right? And you got to have that too. So, but it's tough because there is a responsibility there that you feel a weight that you have to take care of people. So.
Whenever you onboarded, were you trained by another CFO?
I was not. No, and it's funny because I was like, right now I work with our head of HR, and they're like, all right, well, onboarding. I'm like, hey, I didn't get really onboarded. Like nobody told me what to do, like jokingly, but no, it's a little different role. I mean, we have our, tellers and member specialists that are out there working with our members. They have a very specific training that they need to know how to handle certain situations. I mean, I came in, I'm the first CFO at this credit union. So there was no path. There was no, hey, we did this last time. It's we need you to come in and kind of give us a new vision and see how we're going.
Patient zero.
Yes, absolutely. That's right. So now we're extremely sound financially, and we keep books great, but just the forward looking kind of strategy piece that I'm still working on, that I'm still learning. That's what I was hired to do. Right. Kind of get us going that way. So it's interesting.
I feel like we should get this question out the way because I know whoever's watching this probably doesn't really know the answer either. And I really don't think I know the answer either. So what does a federal credit union exactly do? So we're the same as a bank. Mm-hmm. People would probably punch me if they saw the credit union world. But we have a very different focus. So we are a not-for-profit. So we're not taxed
by the federal government, which is nice. Not have to deal with that.
For sure.
But and the reason of that is if you have an account with the credit union, you have one vote at our meeting. So you get to elect officers, you get to elect volunteers, board of directors, those types of things. Our board of directors are volunteers. They're not paid. They are members of the credit union that volunteer their time to oversee how we operate and how we run our credit union. So that's a big difference. Volunteer board, not for profit, but we are there to serve our members. So if you are a member, you're an owner of us. You have one share, one vote, just like everybody else. You can have $1 million in our credit union. You can have 25. You have the same power to vote and same influence. So that's the big difference. But honestly, banks, they are there to make money.
Yeah.
That's what they do. They're there to make a profit, have a good stock price, make investors happy. We don't have that focus. We need to make money. So I say we're not for profit, but we have to make money to survive, right? We got to build our capital. We got to have all that. So we do make money. We make income, but that's not our sole focus. We will take more chances on people for maybe one of those loans. It's like, this person's borderline. If we feel like they will pay us back, we're going to give them that loan. And they're not going to get it from a big bank.
So you're like private lenders? Would you consider yourself that?
No. So, anybody can come in and work with us. Another difference, though, is to qualify for membership of a credit union, there's certain, like we're a community chartered credit union. So you have to be in Greenville County. Live, work, worship, or attend school in Greenville County. Banks, you can kind of do whatever. There's no restrictions. So those are probably the four main things. Yeah. But the biggest one is we are member focused, and that's another term, member. You don't hear that in banks,
right?
But you're a member of our credit union where you have a voice and you're a part of it. So it's really cool. I love it too, and we're extremely involved in community. So philanthropic. We're involved in. I'm gonna do a quick plug on our high school branch. We have 2 high school fully operational branches in Greenville High School and Greer High School, where students run the credit union, and they can do a full. Cool. They do it all in the school.
Riverside.
That's cool.
Yeah, well, maybe down the line, but that's a big initiative of us. We want students and those schools, and ultimately Greenville County School District to have the financial literacy, to know how to operate credit union and serve their student body, and just have that knowledge. So
just how you get a loan, let's say you would get a loan from the bank, you could get a loan from, okay.
You got to get a loan. We got all your deposits, so you can interest on your money. Yeah.
So why do you think people don't lean more towards credit unions?
It's a great question. We're trying to figure it out all the time. That's what we do, is we try to show them that we are different, that we're there for them. And I think it's just, the bigger guys have more money to spend. Yeah. So we do everything we can to help our community, but ultimately a lot of people will go to what they see, what they know, all that kind of stuff.
That's a key point, is that you're different.
Right.
Yep. It's not necessarily bad different, but it's just like, man, I know Bank of America might not be the best, but I know Bank of America.
It's popular.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
actually one of the worst banks, but
that's
the worst.
Yeah.
I think it's the worst.
Wells Fargo is like the worst.
You said it, not me. It's funny too, because like say ATMs, right? Everybody wants to have their access to cash. We refund ATM fees. So you can go to anywhere, use it, and get your cash, and we cover
refund it. Yeah.
So it's just little things like that where people don't know about.
That is great.
I didn't even know that.
Some ATMs are charging.
Yeah,
some ATMs are charging.
Okay, so talking about, because we were talking about earlier before we set up, was Southern First.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to go use the ATM there. So I got Charles Schwab. They refund ATM fees for foreign ATMs, or just like non-Charles Schwab ATMs. Southern First, they charge their own fee on top of like the ATM fee.
Yeah.
They have a $3 Southern First fee.
That's crazy.
There you go.
Who just got like maybe I'm just poor, but like who got $3 just to like pull out a 20? You know?
I'm not right.
Yep.
And I want to know if you would like. I'm sorry for getting a little off topic, but I've been holding it in. As a manager, talking about being a manager versus employee, did you have to take it to the chopping block yet? You give somebody the axe.
I have not.
If you did, how is it?
I have not for my direct team.
Okay.
But I've been involved. I've been at the table, and that's a hard one. It's It's tough. And sometimes people do things that it has to be done. We got to run a business, but that's a hard one because it is. You care for people. You know that this is their livelihood, right? That's their job. That's everything. But sometimes we pride ourselves on we're going to give people chances. We don't just you messed up, you're out. Like we work with people. Has there
been a point where, let's say somebody necessarily didn't mess up, it was just kind of something y'all had to do?
Somebody got to go, though. Somebody got to be the fall guy.
Has to go.
No, I haven't been there yet.
Yeah.
And I do know just historically at our institution, we tried to find a better spot for that person, more so than ask them to leave.
Yeah.
So it's like, maybe your skill set's not here. Let's try, in this area. So a different department. Just because, it's especially when, through the interview process, you get to know people. You feel like, and they're working with you. You don't want to just kick them out, especially because there's a lot of talented people. Sometimes they don't know the talents they have.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to give opportunities and see where they could fit. If it's another spot in the
That's cool. Jeez.
I was doing some research before, like about Federal Credit Union, because I had no idea what that was. Like I always hear about it, but I was like, I'd rather just go Wells Fargo.
I would love to change your mind.
Yeah,
man.
no, but I mean, honestly, now that, because my main thing was about the ATMs and access to cash, because there's obviously going to be times where I need to get that, and if I'm not in Greenville, there's no specific ATM for that. I always thought 325 is not that convenient. But you said they refund it to you, right?
Yep.
So what else do you think that other people don't know besides like ATM accessibility and stuff?
Man, I think
like for example, I heard they on the internet they were saying you can get lower interest rates as well from credit
so
unions.
that is one thing that we typically, it's not going to be every time.
Right.
There's all sorts of market things. That's what I have a job for, is to make sure and price things properly. But we do pride ourselves on lower loan rates for our members and higher deposit rates. So you can make more money with money that you have at the credit union, and we charge you less on your loans. That's kind of our driver. And then I look at market surveys. I look at what's out there, what does our balance sheet need, that type of stuff. But ultimately, our goal is to give the best rate on both sides to our members. So
if you were but if you were publicly shared, you would be in charge of like the stock price and stuff.
You're not in charge of the markets,
or like you would
the stock price, but
like influence it in a sense.
You influence it by results, really. Okay. So you gotta hit your marks, and that's where banks can get a little. If I'm being honest, they can get a little off the person, right, and not they be managing more to, we need to make more money. We need
2008.
Yeah, all that fun stuff. Thankfully, I wasn't involved in all that. Boy, I've heard horror stories, but yeah. So it becomes a bottom line thing where you might say, "Hey, we got to fire this person because we gotta save some money." And we have some more leeway in the credit union world. And like I said earlier, I think a biggest thing is we have a focus of serving our community, and if that is extending credit to somebody that might not be worth it on paper, it doesn't make sense, we're going to a lot of times take that chance because we want to help this person build credit, get out of what they're involved in, consolidate some debt where they are spread way too thin, where we can give them one thing and consolidate that, lower their payment, and get them back on their feet. So we look at full picture of that for our members when they come in. So I'd encourage you guys to look at it, because I want to ask you guys real quick. You mentioned cash. This is one thing with credit unions. We have an older member base age-wise, and I'd love to get younger. So what is something that you guys would want in a financial institution? Do you even think about a financial institution, or do you guys just do, your Cash App and all that and just go that route? What do you guys look for?
I think, most of the money I use is, virtually. Like I'll send it through Zelle or something. Yep. So
we have Zelle.
You have Zelle.
We have Zelle.
On. So I guess, besides that, there's not really any other reason that I shouldn't go.
Yeah.
I'm actually like genuinely gonna look in. I'm probably actually gonna switch 100%. Over to a credit union now.
I'd love it.
I guess the only thing that just steered me away was like, everybody. I guess maybe it's not true from what I'm hearing now, but it's just not usable outside of the county.
So it's usable. You just have to qualify
Yeah.
for membership. You can go where
before
we
I
have
heard
people.
it's just like it's pretty much useless. You want to withdraw money, but you're saying you can withdraw money.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that claim's now debunked.
It is.
So it's
Myth
why not?
busted.
Why not just add an extra card in the wallet?
Yeah. So I mean, we're always trying to come up with just new products, new things that make sense. So we have right now a 5% cash reward on
I'm about to
checking
say
account.
Interest rate. I was like, yeah.
No, it's a 5% interest rate on your cash balance. If you're using your checking account,
it's more than my savings. My savings is like 4.7. I thought that was high.
Yes, I mean there's some qualifications on it. Do you guys use debit cards ever?
No,
or your
you always
Apple
got to use
Wallet?
credit card.
Or so you use your Apple Wallet and just tap whatever.
Yeah.
So you do 12 transactions using your card, you get 5% interest rate on your
using the debit
cash.
card.
So
interesting.
So I'm working on rolling out some other stuff on higher savings rates too. So check it out. I'd love for you guys to check it out.
It's crazy that you control that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
it is
crazy.
very odd.
It's a lot of responsibility.
It is.
Were you already banking with a credit union before you?
I'll be honest, guys. I didn't know what credit unions were.
You just searched CFO and Indeed.
We're actually going to be CFOs now. We're following the same path.
You guys are doing it. You're doing it.
That's crazy.
No, it was a recruiter reached out to me and just said, "Hey, she's like, I've heard your name through whatever, and I think you'd be a good fit for this job." I'm like, "What are you talking about? That's crazy." but I talked to our managers, our VPs, everybody today. I'm like, I didn't know who we were before I got here.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
And I use that as that's a problem.
Right.
That's a problem. Like we need to think different. We got to get our name out there because we offer everything. We do mortgages, we do commercial loans. So if you guys ever start buying rental houses and need a loan to start doing that through your LLC, we do that.
Guy right here.
Do you offer lower interest rates with that, or like house buying? Yeah, right now it's pretty high. It's like at 8.
Right now, right now it's high. So we do. You guys know adjustable rate mortgages? You ever heard of those?
Isn't that based on income?
It's not. No.
It's not. You see, I don't know nothing either.
Yeah. So it's a unique product, but it actually, like right now, it's doing really well for us because what we price it right now, we're at 6.5%. That's a fixed rate for 5 years. So the first 5 years, it's 6.5%. And then after that, it adjusts every year based on the current market. It can come down.
That's like insurance.
But then
it can come down, it can go up.
Yeah.
But then we always say within the next 5 years, you can refinance that.
Yeah,
so if fixed rates, 30-year fixed rates come down, refinance it and go on. But it's a great product. And we do, it's only 10% down instead of 20% on your conventional. With no PMI. Do you guys know what PMI is?
No clue.
Private mortgage insurance.
Okay.
So typically, if you don't have 20% down, you're gonna pay an insurance premium to cover that difference.
We're learning more.
We don't
already.
do that. We don't do that.
'Cause I know about the 20% thing. Like I don't know. I just get bored sometimes. I'll go on like Ryan's website, look at just houses and stuff, and I'll see like the way they finance. Oh, it's 20%, 20%.
20%.
But like maybe I just wasn't focusing. But I don't remember my family putting down 20% when they got their home.
I mean, there's like first time home.
Yeah, there's
FHA.
Yeah, I think that was what it is.
Our first house we did a FHA. It's 3.5% down, but you pay that mortgage insurance, and it's not cheap. Oh man, I told my wife, I'm like, never again. We got to save some money.
Really?
Because that was tough, but it got us in the house, build equity, and then we rolled it over and got the next house. So it worked.
I mean, look at this place.
So you would avoid using FHA? Like if you're one of us, you would avoid that?
I wouldn't avoid it. I would analyze it. I'd make sure it made sense.
Have a plan.
I just don't go just sweet only 3.5% down. See, because you can buy points too and put a little more down and so you can really start getting it honed in a little bit. But like I said, it worked for us because we were in our house turned out to be short term, about a year and a half. And equity shot up, and then we just moved up to a cheaper area and got to use that equity to cover it. So, that was fun.
What do you think is the number one thing you've either learned or benefited from after you got the CFO position, or did you just started learning and working with that field?
I do. I think it comes back to people and being in charge of. Being in charge of others. It's a different thing.
What about as far as like financially? Like, is there anything like that really opened your eyes?
Life hacks.
Yeah.
Spill the beans. Give me the cut around the government.
Oh boy.
Expose the government.
Expose.
like something
Out
that
of tax fraud.
No, I do not condone this. Man, so I don't know. I mean, I think just it's big numbers, right, that we're working with when you're talking about a credit union or a bank or anything. But in reality, it's just a number.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. But I'm trying to think of kind of big
something that, like, if you hadn't joined them, you would have never known about, and it would have never helped you out.
Yeah, you
Or
actually like
vice
financial,
versa.
like saving money, stuff like that.
Just anything,
Or
anything
even
that probably the average person doesn't know.
income hacking or something.
That's a tough
On top
one.
of that, vice versa, something that you had to teach them. Because like I'm assuming you came with a more corporate mindset than they already have.
Yeah, that's
So like, it's something you learned from them and something you had to implement in them as well.
Well, I think just a lot of just processes. Our credit union started as Greenville County Teachers Credit Union, so you had to be a teacher to join, and then we've grown and expanded a little bit. So I think just the growth of our credit union is unique in a business sense of financial services, but a lot of credit unions have the same story at the same time. But I came in with the CPA background, the audit background, just all that. So I got to kind of bring in like, hey, let's get some more checks and balances. Let's get some more reconciliations over here. Let's do processes like this that weren't already there. So some of those things, just kind of more efficient flow of work. Man, I'm still hung up on because I've learned so much. That's why it's so hard.
bet.
Yeah.
I mean,
I guess-
it's like almost.
I guess if you want to like ponder on that idea, maybe we can talk a little bit more about like what are your daily tasks as a CFO?
Yep.
Like what do you do day to day?
Man, so right now, I mean, a big one is liquidity. You guys, know that term of just having cash, right?
Exactly.
So managing our balance sheet, making sure so we take in shares from our members, deposits, and then we loan them out, and that's how we make our money. We earn more on the loans, and we pay out good returns, but I got to manage that spread.
Yeah.
That's
Kind of like a bank right there.
That's it.
Yeah.
You got to manage it.
Yeah.
But I mean, just lately, people. I mean, everything costs so much, right?
Yeah.
Inflation's crazy. Starting to come down, thankfully, but it's coming down on higher levels. So everything kind of shot up, and now it's just slowing down a little bit. So it's still expensive.
Yeah.
It's
So a
becoming
lot
normalized with the higher price.
Exactly.
It's never going to go back to what it was.
Right. Yeah.
Just
So
leveling.
now it's just making sure it's not going too
Plateauing.
fast. But man, everybody has to spend more, and it's groceries, it's gas, it's just to live. It's not like extravagant. We saw a little spike over the summer in travel. I mean, that's awesome. Love that. But it's maintaining balances and making sure people are saving and trying to come up with new products to encourage saving, to encourage getting people more money, getting better returns that we can afford as a credit union. That's the balance that I wrestle with literally daily.
That sounds hard.
It's tough because you want to, like, we could just be like, hey, 5% on everything, and then we'd be out of business.
Exactly.
It's like,
so
we
many
gotta
limitations
survive.
to keep it alive.
So, and that's what's tough. I mean, our employees are great, have great conversations, and they just care for our members.
Yeah.
And they look at me like, hey, can't we do this? And I'm like, we can't afford it. It's a hard conversation.
So would you say margins are kind of close when it comes to what you do?
They can be, yeah. So right now we're doing great. Our information's out there. You can pull our call report. That's what we do. We file with the government, with the NCUA. They, just like FDIC, they give insurance to our members on their deposits in case we mess up, we fail. Our members are covered. But they come in. We have to file with them quarterly. You can see our full financials. We have great numbers. We're doing awesome. But it's one of those where I can't live today. I have to be looking a year, 18 months down, and I have to see. So this interest rate environment, when the Fed is just pushing rates up, that we're all feeling. If you go your credit card, your any loan, anything like that, you're seeing good 4.7% on your savings. That wasn't a thing 3 years ago. So with all that, like, I had to kind of see this coming a year ago, and I saw that coming. But at the same time, man, it came quick.
Right.
A little quicker than anybody in the industry really thought.
So would that be one of the things that you could say that you have done it?
I think you got me.
Yeah.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
I do. I think it's much more of the forward mindset.
Yeah.
And it's a big change. So when you talk about going from employee to management, going from accounting more to finance, that was a bigger jump to me too, like that and managing people, because accounting, I get to look back. I get to look backwards, and I get to adjust and make sure it all works. And
finance is a guessing game.
Finance, you got to have a ton of assumptions, a ton of different things.
Right.
Probably the biggest piece is our interest rate risk forecasting, asset liability management, our balance sheet, how it reacts to different interest rates. It's been amazing to kind of just see that and forecast it out, and then to make decisions off of it and actually be responsible for that.
Yeah,
big change.
Right.
Big change.
So like when it comes to pushing out these new products, are you one of the decision makers for that?
I am. Yeah. So we have teams. So our VP team is awesome. We have, goodness, we probably got a team of 8 to 10 VPs and above, maybe even more than that.
Yeah.
But so it's always ideas. What could we do? So we talk about that, but then ultimately, I got to kind of stamp it.
So how do you manage risk when it comes to, like, let's say that you have a great idea, but maybe the numbers aren't fully there, but if it like, for example, it goes well, then obviously you will have a great return in the future.
Yep.
How do you manage that risk?
Yeah, so I think that's one area where I think me and maybe even our organization right now is hesitant, and I think we probably need to push through that and kind of, I don't know, Josh, we go back a ways with church stuff, but one of the studies that, I don't know if you've done it, but you got to take a step, and if you fail quickly. And cheaply, honestly, is what it comes down to. But you got to be moving.
Like commit?
Yeah. Commit, just make some move. So making a decision on, let's try it. And if it busts, we got to recognize quickly and pull it back or change it. What's that?
Like a mindset thing.
And an action thing.
Yeah, because in like sports, sometimes like I hear my coach, he says like, so like you'll have a defensive scheme. Like as an offensive lineman, you'll see the defensive scheme. But you don't know what they're going to do. Their plays are always different than your own plays. Like in practice, the guy's supposed to stand there, and he's supposed to let you get to him because that's just your practice dummy. Yep. But with them, you don't know how they move. So he just says, if your guy moves out of place, if he's not there anymore, just find the first guy and just run through him. Just commit. You got to commit to somebody instead of just.
Yeah. I feel like I saw a video of you doing that one time.
Let's not talk about that. My football career is one for the not reels. Shut down, retired.
Yep. But yeah, it comes back to for that kind of thing, you got to get buy-in, and you got to have a willingness to. I mean, it's tough because I struggle with, but a willingness to fail sometimes. But you got to recognize it, and you got to be able to pivot. You got to be flexible, nimble. You got to do some things different. So yeah.
Okay.
I can kind of relate to that because, like Dee was saying earlier, I'm about to move to Florida, and just because there's an opportunity down there for me, and the
sunny beaches.
Definitely.
I was gonna be in Swampville though.
That's true. And Dee and like some of my other friends, they're like, you don't gotta move. Like you could figure it out here. Like there's opportunities here for you. And I'm like, you're right, but I'd rather figure out this one, take it on, and make the full move.
Yep.
And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I might at least know.
Yep.
Other than just holding out, so I can relate to that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to throw that in there.
I think that's great, and I know one of the interview questions that I've gotten a couple times actually is, what's the your greatest accomplishment, not professional life? And mine was, I grew up in Illinois, came to Clemson, didn't know anybody, and I was just like, so that to power through that and put yourself in a spot where you're not comfortable, you're doing something different. That's probably my biggest accomplishment, because it's just like I push myself, but you're doing the same thing. Yeah. You're taking a chance and you're going to learn something. You might fail, you might come back. Who knows? Exactly. But you're doing something and testing it. That's where growth comes. Is when you're kind of in a different spot. Yeah, and stretching yourself. So nice work on that.
Good to hear that. Good to hear. Gives me some hope.
Absolutely.
So another thing I hear a lot about banks is, whenever you deposit your money to the bank, like for example, Wells Fargo, they'll use that money and loan it to other people, correct?
It doesn't stay there. They use
essentially, but
right.
But your money, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that's kind of how it flows. Because that's we use from the financial institution side. Yeah, we use deposits. We can go borrow money.
Mm-hmm.
We can go raise it in all sorts of ways where we use all that money to fund loans. So,
Okay, I got
that's
you.
why they reward you for leaving it in there, but the
Mhm.
reward is not really a reward with our interest rates for the government.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
You're
and that's
0.1%.
yeah, and that's where we're trying to get these 5%, these 3.5%, that whatever it is, we're trying to get that up. But yeah, that's essentially that's kind of how you're funding the deposits on the bank's books are used to fund loans, and that's
Gotcha.
where the spread comes.
Okay. I just hear that all the time, so
Yeah.
I wanted to hear it from a banker.
Do you guys ever watch It's a
Yeah, they're
Wonderful
using
Life?
you, pal.
No,
You
I
ever seen
haven't.
that? It's
No.
an old movie. I don't know. But
What is it about?
It's a Christmas movie, actually. But it's a guy who runs a savings and loans. It's essentially a bank back in the 40s. And it was when the run on the banks came and all this. And he's like, your money's not here. Like, it's in Jimmy's house. It's in Joe's
I watched that clip
house.
for history
Yeah.
class.
But that's kind of the con. I mean, it's not exactly like that, but it is. But like,
kept borrowing
it's
and
being
borrowing.
used elsewhere. But the one thing I know when all the banks failed, Silicon Valley Bank, have you guys seen all that?
Yeah. That was not too long ago.
That was
last year.
last March.
Yeah.
That was in March. Gosh, it seemed like a lifetime ago. But I had to get on the phone with members. They were coming like, I want my cash and I want it now. And it's like I call them up and like, listen, we have your cash here. You can come get it. I just want you to understand the risk with that, because I mean it'd be $200-something thousand, you know. And I'm just like, you're gonna walk out of here with cash that anything could happen.
Yeah.
It
You
is
said
safe
one of
here.
your old guys to rob them. It's not leaving.
Right back into the bank.
Think twice next time.
and I remember the member was like, "Look, I have a safe. It's bolted. I'm the only one." I'm like, "I hear you." I was like, "And you have full right to it. I just want you to know it's safe here, and we got you covered. But if you want to come get it, come on." And I think he decided not to take it out of the bank, but. I just wanted to warn it. Like, you never know what could happen if you're just walking around with $200,000 of cash.
Exactly.
There's somebody like me waiting.
Do you guys have a limit to how much you'd give back? Because I know banks is like 250,000.
So 250 is your insured.
Yeah.
limit.
That's the FDIC.
Yeah.
If just all else fails.
So that is, and you can build that out. So like, say me and my wife, like if I have my own account, I have up to 250. If we have a joint, it's up to 500 because there's two people. So you can kind of set up different accounts that way. So you can get more than the 250. Yeah. So you can kind of get it, and it's by account. There's all these rules with it. Honestly, I don't even know all the rules with how that can be done, but there is ways to kind of get more coverage if you're really loaded. I don't have that problem, but so with. I think any financial institution has the right to be like, if it's a large amount, like, hey, give us like 2 days, because we don't just have cash sitting there. We have we have cash, but it's really tied up.
It's somebody else's.
Right. But like we have our own credit union corporate account that has a balance in it that's our cash account. And then we can order that and we can bring it to you the next day, whatever. So there's that kind of thing where it's available, but there might be, if you have a huge balance, we might be like, hey, give us a day.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Exactly.
do you think if everybody came and wanted their money out, you think y'all would be able to?
That's just bankruptcy right there.
Yeah, like,
well, yeah. So that's what the bank runs are, right?
Exactly.
And a lot of times when, like the Silicon Valley Bank, they heard rumblings that they were about to fail.
Yeah.
So everybody came to get it. That's where the government's like, hey, we got you. Like, we have we'll get you what you need.
Does the government have you guys?
Absolutely. Yeah. The regulators I was talking about, that's the government. They look at everything. Oh boy, I run those as well. All our audits, exams, all those things I'm in charge of, and oh boy,
that's
they look
a lot.
at everything.
That's a lot.
Because their duty is to protect their insurance fund. So if we fail, they have a loss. So they're going to make sure we don't fail, right?
I guess
they got to protect themselves. So. And it makes sense. So people are covered and safe and all of that, but there is fear sometimes. Yeah. Like I said, when I'm calling members, say, hey, just want you to see the full picture. I get it. I told them that. Like, I totally understand where you're coming from, but you're safe here. Where we got you, you're a priority. So
okay,
that's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
So since you did say that the credit union is not for profit. one of the main things I always get whenever like I'm in sales. So every time I sell something or tell them what we can benefit for them, they go, "What's in it for you?" Obviously, it's for profit, but for a nonprofit, especially in a bank, what is in it for you as a bank?
What's in it for us, honestly, is to be able to survive to help people. I mean, that's our focus. That's what we talk about every day. Yeah. Our senior team, our employees, we are there to serve our members. So what's in it for us is to continue to survive, to be present and available, to give good loans to people, allow them to kind of buy a house, buy cars, sometimes we give a lot of unsecured debt where we just give somebody money and hope they pay us back, and there's no collateral to it. So that's what we're there for, is to provide that. So honestly, that's probably a cheesy answer, but it really is. That's what we're there for, and that's what's in it for us.
Do you think like a long-term goal would be possibly to, I get not like get Wells Fargo out of business, but I guess like
bro got a vengeance plan.
Yeah,
hey, look,
I bank with Wells Fargo.
I had one against Firehouse Subs. It's all right.
Yeah,
like it was a whole thing.
Oh boy, I
lasted for like a month, but like it didn't work. But
yeah,
poor Firehouse. Place is so good.
I've just never been blacklisted for a job. It's just what it is.
Because I know there's a bunch of credit unions in multiple different cities. Is that like a main goal that they all have together, where everybody banks with the credit union rather than the popular banks?
Yeah, so I do think the credit union mission it's unique because banks can go everywhere, but when we have our specific charter of what we can do, we take that seriously and focus on that. Yeah. So I do think other credit unions do have broader charters than we do. So I'll pick on them because they're coming into Greenville County. Have you seen True Liant? Or SC Federal, South Carolina Federal, they're building branches all around us, and there are other credit unions that we know their CEOs, we know all their employees. We talk with them, real close with one of them, and we're just like, well, I mean, we're kind of taking care of this, right. But it is we call it we call it a co-opetition. We cooperate. So I can call that guy and be like, hey. What's your policy on this? How'd you guys write this? Or what are you guys looking at doing? Where's your next expansion? We all talk about it. And we say, what's their plan? Banks just want to destroy us. They really don't like credit unions because we don't pay taxes where they have to pay taxes. But the mission, in my opinion, is very different of what we're trying to accomplish. So I think for us, we do want to grow. That's always part of our strategy. We want to grow, want to reach more members. At some point, I don't think anytime soon, but we'll probably get out of Greenville County and expand. We have a really big marketing presence and all of that in Greenville County, and that's where we know, and that's who we are right now. I could see at some point down the road, maybe never, but I could see going outside of the county lines and seeing where we go. But our ultimate goal is to right now reach Greenville County and show people how we can impact them and help them out.
For sure. I want to piggyback off of these about like just taking over banks. I mean, no, because I had a question of just like because like as an accountant you learn like about fraud and how to detect it, and then because you balance books and stuff like that. Yep. But from learning that and then just being a normal tax-paying citizen. Like, what do you think, feel, think, or do when you see, the government just, playing God in a sense? Just, you have 2008, copped out all the banks. I mean, they should have been done, copped them all out. You have, sending our money to Ukraine, just copping them out. And they most definitely, we just should not be there. So, when all those stocks were getting inflated, like GameStop, Doge, and then you have apps like Robinhood saying, yeah, we're just not going to let you buy it because you're screwing over the New York Stock Exchange and they pay us. So how do you feel? What do you do? What do you think when you just see companies and corporations and the government just giving cop-outs to the rich and then just, taking our money at it too,
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. I mean, that's where I just think just the fallen world we live in a way. I'm not saying our federal government's corrupt, but I mean, there's things like that just don't quite make sense sometimes. But at the same time, we're gonna do what we do. We're gonna help the people we help. We're gonna focus on that. I don't love it. I mean, with regulation, I think you have to have some, or else it'll be the Wild Wild West, and it would just be dangerous and wouldn't be good. But ultimately, it's tough to see as a smaller financial institution when the big guys can kind of get away with whatever.
You feel like you have like a glass ceiling over yourself? Not like you specifically, but as a credit union, you feel like, you know, they're just like seeing what they did with the stock market. There's no way they would ever let a credit union become like, not specifically your credit union, but just credit unions in general have that much power. Like, do you feel like they're just gonna be like, yeah, no, you stay there?
Well, I mean, I think just by the function of how we are set up, I don't think we'll ever get to that, just based on,
even with popularity in general.
Yeah, but I mean, Navy Federal, right? Navy Federal Credit Union.
Oh yeah, Gronkowski.
Yeah, they're massive. They're like, I can't even remember the size they are, but
that's because like they're military oriented. So.
Right. So they have a military. That's their membership base is military. So they're huge. But then they also get under the microscope. I mean, even you say that the big banks get away with everything too, they get fined a ton. Like they get caught up.
They just take it right back from us, though.
Right. I mean, then that's
their projects are never gonna take a hit.
That's what's right. I mean, that's the
it's a circle of life. I get slapped. Well, I'm gonna slap you while
Yeah. So that is a wild piece of it, but no, I mean, it's interesting because anything you see in the Bank of America is all the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, I believe is what it's called, where there's unfair things or deceptive standards that they're putting in place on the people that bank with them. All of that is meant for big banks, but it trickles to us. So we have massive expenses that we have to spend to follow those rules and laws, but they were never meant for us, but we're caught in the net. So that's a tough part for us where it is expensive.
Caught astray.
Yeah, to do all this. And they say that, like, sorry, you're just caught up in it. But that's the reality of the fact. And it's tough when we're doing everything right by our members, but we have to spend extra money to make sure other things. It's wild to manage all that. Yeah. But so it's tough. It's tough to watch, but I think it's just part of life.
It's just your mentality just got to keep on going. Ain't that big.
That's it.
Life's gonna end at some point.
It's true.
Yeah. Not counting. I mean, obviously, as a CFO, you're gonna get a higher income than most positions, but going into the banking world, do you think that your personal expenses and your personal finances has improved?
Watching.
Yeah, I'm not saying
I'm
income wise at all
right now.
No, I'm gonna spin this right here because I'm gonna bring faith into it a little bit because my wife and I we got married and we always knew church, knew the Lord, knew all that, had good backgrounds on that. But the one thing I never did was give money to my church. Tithing. It's called tithing. Never did that. Knew I always should have.
The 10th,
but yeah. So and it's not necessarily something that can be whatever.
Yeah, because 10th could go to wherever.
Yeah.
It's just
and it doesn't even have to be the number. I really think it's more of a hard issue. But so I started out with my CPL. I was doing a lot of stuff, decent paying jobs. We're out of college. She was a teacher. So we were making good money, and it was just a little apartment in Charleston, and we were living it up. But, man, every month was a struggle. Like, every month. I was just like, man, where's our money? Like, well, how do we not have any money? Like, we have good jobs and all this. And then when that happened for a couple years of just kind of paycheck to paycheck. And then I realized, and we had talk about, like, we need to start giving to church. And we had tough conversations, like, we don't have money to give. But and this is where the 10th comes in. I don't think we started straight off giving a 10th of our income.
It's just like that lady, like in the story, like that rich man, he could have given a 20th, but it's nothing to him. His pocket
change. He gave a penny.
Yeah, but that was
more.
Literally.
Yes.
That's her day.
Yeah. But I think we made it a focus to, hey, the first thing that we're going to do with the money that God has given us is to give back to Him, and that's what He commands us to do. So that, like, I was like, we got to do this. And as we started that, it wasn't immediate, but it was pretty quick, where we realized, hey, like we have more than we need. And I think it was just the mindset of giving back to the Lord and reorganizing our priorities on what we were spending money on. And I think that freed up our finances because we were trusting it to God. And I don't think the dollar amount has changed over the years, but I don't even know that really mattered because we made the same money for a good while. The dollar amount didn't change, but we felt freed up, and we were doing great on giving, investing, doing all these things that we weren't before. And I can always point back to when we decided we're going to give this back to the Lord first and trust Him to use this with what He's given us. So all that to say, I had to bring that in because that's one of the big parts of our life story. But as you progress through your careers, you take new opportunities, you get promoted, whatever. I would encourage you guys just to think about where's this money coming from.
Right.
And ultimately, it's coming from the Lord, and I think that we need to give that back. So
for sure.
That helps. I mean, we also started doing a little more budgeting. We actually budgeted from day one, but it always ran out. Yeah. But just have that little mind shift. So that helped is the most, if I'm being honest with you guys.
Nice. I don't know if you guys noticed, but this is like a pattern. Last time, exactly. So our last podcast was with the CEO and founder of Tropical Grill.
Okay.
Laz.
Delicious.
Yeah. Yeah. So Laz, that was a great podcast as well. He said that whenever he opened his first restaurant here, he didn't put music that you hear mostly in other restaurants. He dedicated that his restaurant for the Lord as well, and put Christian music, even though people would come in and say, why are you going to play that music? People are going to you're going to turn away from it just because of that. And he kept doing that and doing that. Yeah. And so, it started getting not that money business was coming through. He was kind of struggling until one day just snapped and it worked in his favor.
Yeah. There was a lady that told him, she was like, I think that music will be the reason why your business will fail.
Right.
Oh, wow.
And he just took that and kept doing what he was doing, and
I love it.
He cares about God's opinion more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Nice. Were you raised a Christian?
Yeah. So my parents actually helped start. They planted a church when I was a little kid, 3 or 4 or 5 years old.
Went to the church I got baptized at? Or was that the grandparent?
That was my grandparents. Yep. But up in Illinois, my parents helped plant a church. They were the first 4 families. They used to meet in the basement, and then they're like, we just need to start a church. So my whole life I was involved in everything. And I think the biggest part of my, conversion story, if you will, I was always around it. But I think when I decided to kind of take the focus off myself and realize I need to serve others and be available and pour out to other people, that's when the Lord really started working in my life, of just saying, hey, this, like, do you remember this phrase of there is a God and I'm not Him?
Right.
That's one of the things that I always repeat to myself. It's like,
Cliff loves that.
It's a good one because it does. It kind of reorients. Like I'm nothing. I'm nothing. I mean, the Lord is using me in different ways, and I want to be available for that. Right. So, just remind myself there is a God. Number one, because we can go through daily life where we might not think like that, but if we put that front and then know that I'm not that God and I need to be used by Him, has been really, really big in my life, though.
For sure.
Yeah.
Were like, for example, in my case, I was also raised a Christian, but not until recently is where I actually started exploring my faith and then really diving deep into it, doing a lot of research, trying to really figure out if why I should believe into Jesus Christ, right?
Yep.
And so I started getting into it. Now I'm so deep into it, like I don't see it as any other way. Jesus Christ, there's so much behind it. Did you go through something similar like that where you just?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest piece is owning your own faith, and because I know a lot of like the church I go to, and this is. We say this to our teenagers and stuff, and it's like you don't have your parents' faith. You like your parents can raise you that way. They can do all that, but that is not yours. Yeah. Like that, they can put you
Christ.
Exactly. Like this is a personal relationship. So, I did have to learn that because I think you can get in the routine, you get in the kind of the ritual mindset.
I go to church with my parents.
I'm covered, I right? Yeah, exactly. So, it's encouraging me that you recognize that and took steps on your own to be like, and even question it. Find a question and research and understand. But it is, I think, really my high school years into college is when I started realizing I need this. This is for me. This is mine. This is my parents putting this on me. I need to make this decision and make those steps and take that forward. So yeah, there's sanctification, right? If you know that term, where it's just a constant getting more and more like Christ is our goal. Right. We just got to be making steps towards that. And that's where I'm at in my life. I'm constantly just trying to get better and more like him. So,
yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, especially like, for example, right now on the internet, I feel like a lot of people are even leaning more towards Islam, for example, like becoming a Muslim, right?
It's just because all those streamers, man.
Yeah,
they don't
exactly.
know nothing. They just like, oh, this rich guy saying,
yeah,
Alhamdulillah.
This a lot of fighters.
This wrestler saying Alhamdulillah.
Even,
it must be the path.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's what you feel like it is, I'm not gonna sit here and trash another man's faith. If that's what you feel like it is, go ahead. But I've always sat there and like, I've never understood having a faith based off another person's faith. Like we say that, but we were just talking about our parents. But that's parents. Like, but to look at somebody like, oh, that wrestler, man, he's Islam, or like he's a Muslim. I'm gonna just go become a Muslim. Or my boyfriend's Muslim. I'm gonna go convert. If you're converting for the reason and that not being God, again, well, it's not the same God, but like, I'm not gonna dive into that rabbit hole. But let's just say this: you believe your faith is true. We believe ours is true. Yeah. But if you're converting, and this is something that's like it should be taken seriously. You're talking about like you believe this is where the afterlife is. This is where the truth is. You're gonna convert over a significant other. I feel like that's why. I feel like that's why Jesus like talks about like it has to be personal. Yeah. Like don't point the finger and say this guy told me this or that girl told me that, because yes, that does happen, and they're gonna have a bad punishment for like false teaching, but at the same time you accepted and you went with it. So. Like, I'm not a big fan of that. Just converting because some celebrity said to, or like you got like D said, you got to do your own research.
Yeah, I think the main thing I did mostly was like look up debates. Especially, I was always like, I always knew that there was a God for sure. But then I started just questioning, why is it that there's so many different religions? Why is it that Muslims don't believe Jesus Christ was a prophet? But they don't believe that he's God in man form. Why is it that Christians believe that? So then that's when I started really like learning more, and then I started seeing like Gideon, for example.
Yeah, not Gideon anymore. It's Gideon.
And then
his transformation inspirational.
Yeah, it really is.
I feel like a lot of like people, like me included, us, just like I think just teenagers going to adults. It's like I'm not saying that we weren't real Christians, but it just kind of hits like, okay, there's like. We can't just keep saying, Lord, forgive me. Like, there's got to be a call to action. I was in the Bible app not too long ago. It was talking about, like, the difference between gifts and then fruit of the Spirit. Fruit of the Spirit takes discipline, takes sacrifice, and it takes practice. And I'm looking at them. I'm like, have I been actually putting forth effort in that category? And it's like, God talks about, like, every brother and sister in Christ has to do their part. Not just for each other, but to be an example. Because, like, I might be the only Christ figure or the only Bible, as some people say, to a non-believer. And if I'm out here acting wild, they're going to see the wild. They might not see me go confess my sins behind closed doors, but they're going to see the wild, and they're going to be like, that's the truth? That's the way? Nah. Yep. And sadly, that's kind of how it is a lot. They're seeing these bad examples, or they're seeing too constructive religion instead of faith. They get a bad taste in their mouth, and that's just what they associate. Like, it's even a psychological thing. They just do it based off association with a bad experience.
Yeah. Well, I think that just comes with maturity too. I mean, you mentioned going in teen to adult, and just looking back on my kind of journey, it's the more mature you become, the more understanding, more thought you can put towards it. And you guys are at that age where you're going to start owning it yourself. You already are, and that's huge, and that's part of that sanctification. That is getting closer and more like Jesus every day. There's going to be some dips. There's going to be some backtracking every now and then. That happens, but the goal needs to be pushing forward. And it sounds like you guys are doing that, which is just really, really good stuff.
For sure. Yeah. Well, we just hit 1 hour
Oh
On
wow,
the
That
dot.
flew by.
On the dot.
It flew
That's
by.
cool.
I know.
How about that?
Yeah, I'm so happy about this podcast.
Oh,
It
no,
actually really well.
Hey.
I honestly didn't know what to expect at all
Yeah.
because I was like, I don't know.
didn't
what
either.
Yeah, they were
Credit
worried. They were
union.
like, we don't know him. What do we ask?
I was like, I don't know what a credit union is.
Oh, no,
You should look at my YouTube history. This is crazy right now.
Pros and cons.
The
credit
rest easy,
union.
man. I'm the CFO of a credit union. Didn't know what one was before I got there. So there you go.
That makes me feel better. That makes me feel better.
But no, I appreciate you guys. This is
Yeah.
great. Yeah, I mean, it's good to kind of, you guys learn something new about credit
Yeah.
unions.
Yeah, learned a lot.
I enjoy talking to you guys.
Yeah.
Shout out small group. Shout out Cliff. Shout out Grace Church. Shout out Phil. Shout out his job.
So yeah, okay, but so I guess we could just wrap it up. I really appreciate you for coming.
Yeah,
Thank you for especially opening up your home,
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
your lovely home.
Definitely.
Majority of our audience are like most likely our age, so
Yeah.
we're gonna go ahead and tell you right now, screw Wells Fargo, don't do Bank of America no more.
Yeah,
They're
they
scamming
actually
you.
screwed. They closed people's accounts,
Yeah.
took money. That's
Damn.
Yeah.
70
That's
over
right.
$75 million worth of fraud. Somehow they're still standing. God knows how.
Jeez.
But, it is what it is.
Greenville Federal Credit Union is the way to go.
That's it.
But yeah, again, I really appreciate you for coming, or actually for letting us come to your house.
Yeah,
but
thank y'all, man.
yeah, so we'll just call it a day.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
See you next time.
All right, see ya.